And so like no longer are the days of just slapping our logo on our big screen and calling it a day. Like we got to do a lot more for our partners.
Okay, welcome back to the Marketing Playbook, presented by Details Interactive. Here you'll take away 3 game-winning marketing plays every episode to take back to your team. I'm your host, Mark Friedman, and my career has been focused on direct-to-consumer marketing, direct mail, physical retail, and digital commerce. This is episode number 51, and today's guest is Sean Phaler, Director of Digital Marketing for Tepper Sports and Entertainment. I'm a big sports fan, so this is going to be fun hearing the behind-the-scenes stories of digital marketing for sports franchises. Before we get started, a quick thank you, as always, to Max Brandstetter of the Wild Business Growth Podcast for producing this episode. You can reach him at maxpodcasting.com to help bring your podcast to life. Let's open the playbook. Ready, break. Well, hello, everyone. Thank you for joining the Marketing Playbook podcast. Today, I'm joined by Sean Phaler. Sean is the Director of Digital Marketing at Tepper Sports and Entertainment. Sean is driving digital marketing strategies across the Carolina Panthers, Charlotte FC, and Bank of America Stadium. Under owner David Tepper, the Carolina Panthers and Charlotte FC are looking forward to a new era of continued success, business growth, and even deeper engagement with the community, fans, marketing partners, and other constituents. Sean got his first taste of the digital world in 8th grade when he was offered a $60,000 a year job as a web designer after winning an online contest. The offer was rescinded when the company figured out that he was only 14 years old. Welcome, Sean, to the show.
Thanks for having me, Mark. Appreciate it.
Well, that's kind of an interesting story. 14 years old, winning a $60,000 a year job. I guess they didn't do their due diligence in figuring out who was entering the contest.
Yeah, so surprisingly, I used my dad's name to get in there, and my dad was pretty progressive. We had computers when I was younger. I fell in love with computers, but also fell in love with basketball. And so it was kind of a weird combination of a computer nerd and a basketball player. Wasn't really a thing back in the day. And so, yeah, just kind of fell in love and been doing somewhat both ever since, per se, if you want to say that.
That's great. That's a fun story for you. People that listen to my podcast, and then hopefully we get some, new folks out of this. This is episode number 51, I believe. One of the things I'm going to be doing over the next, few months is kind of this string of sports marketing guests. Sports is a big passion of mine, just about every single sport. Unfortunately, I root for some New York teams. Well, all New York teams, and we're not exactly in an upcycle on my teams at the moment. But all that said, I think we're going to have some great guests, and you're leading that off. So thanks for doing that. Let's go back. I like to give the folks that are listening kind of a little bit of a backstory, the first story of my guest. So Sean, give us some perspective. Where did you grow up? Family life, that kind of thing.
Yeah, so I kind of grew up, a basketball player. I don't know if you guys can hear me or not on how tall I am, but I'm 6'9", and I grew up in Southern California. And my dad was a little progressive, and so we always had computers at the time at the home. And so I had two passions growing up: this weird computer world where I was designing websites and really love and delve into that, but also had a love for basketball. Throughout high school, I was always, building websites and connecting things, and built an e-commerce website in high school selling car parts. Had a lot of fun and success with that. But I had also a lot of good influence in my life. And they said, Sean, don't go to college and play basketball, to just get a degree and try to focus. Not everyone's going to be an NBA basketball player. And so they said, if you're going to get to college paid for and you're lucky enough to get a scholarship, make sure you get something out of it. So I ended up getting a business degree from UNC Charlotte here locally. Really kind of did all the things necessary in college to really kind of still keep my web design skills sharp, or whatever you want to say. And because of basketball, I redshirted my freshman year. So I had a 5th-year senior option. And so later on the end of my senior year in college, one of my friends' dads was like, hey, I got a company. We need a website. Can you build me a website? I'm like, yeah, sure, no problem. So I built him a website. And then he referred me to someone else, and I built him a website. And before I even graduated college, I was playing basketball and building websites and had my own website company, per se, all kind of loaded up there. And so by the time I graduated, it was 2008, and the major housing recession was happening. No one was getting jobs. And so I decided, I was like, you know what, maybe I'm onto something here. And I kind of dove head first and started building websites for a whole bunch of small companies all over Charlotte, and really was doing digital marketing before the digital marketing term was really around, right? So it kind of turned into website, social media, all the stuff around there.
Yeah, so that's great. We're going to get into that in a bit because I think that you were kind of early, and especially and maybe we'll tackle that now. It's a little bit out of order, but your first role, I guess, was at the Bobcats, the Charlotte Bobcats, in sports marketing. This was 2010, so it's 12 years ago. A lot has changed, digital marketing. So, what was your mandate when you got to that role? What did they want you to do?
Yeah, so Bobcats at the time, right, was just a news website. It was photos, videos. Here's the story of the game. I was able to combine both my passions, which was awesome, right? I had this web design business that was up and running, but I was like, there's an opportunity here for me to work in sports, and I didn't know at the time that that was actually even a thing, right? I think a lot of people don't understand that there's a whole business out of sports when you're in high school and college. I was able to take their website and build out more interactive elements, build out, microsites within there. Email marketing became a thing, hire an email marketing person, right? Social media became a thing, hire a social media person, and really kind of grew the bobcats.com web presence into interactive ways. We wanted to start collecting data and fan information, right? We were one of the first NBA teams to pilot an app. And so like in that like 2010 to 4 or 5 years there, digital marketing per se really became a thing, right? And a lot of ways you want to activate digitally. And, I applaud the NBA. I think they're one of the more progressive digital sports leagues within the United States. And so it was a really cool time to be part of the NBA because we were able to take, just like a living, breathing like news site and build it into interactive elements and player pages, microsites and things like that. So it was a great time. I loved working there and just being part of the team at that time.
What was the role that the NBA played in there? I think if you look at the major sports leagues today, they have, there's a lot of standardization and control over the team's sites. You go to MLB.com and excuse me, everything is powered, and they all the sites themselves, other than the content being different, the framework and the structure is the same, which makes a lot of sense, right? You guys shouldn't be my opinion, you shouldn't necessarily be in the tech and UI UX kind of business. You just populate the content to create fan engagement, I imagine. But back then, was it kind of a free for all?
So they just started standardizing websites, but they still allowed a lot of custom, widgets and custom code. So there'd be days where I broke the Bobcats homepage because I was messing around with some code and didn't put a div tag somewhere, right? And so it'd be like, oh, and me and my boss would be sitting there freaking out because that's at the time it still got a lot of visits and a lot of users that we thought. And so there'd be times where we'd have to call the NBA, hey, can you go revert back to an hour ago? And so I think that was fun. But I think, coming into today's world, and we're kind of hopping back and forth, is websites were meant for, writers and people like that. And so sports didn't know how to really understand someone who wanted to code and wanted to really do a lot of customizations. They wanted to kind of lock down and keep all the websites kind of templatized. As sad as it is, that it's still that way today. And, working in the NFL now, it's even worse. So there's a lot of things we've done in the last few years that have pushed them to allow us to do more.
Right. And, I think one of the things, we talk about on this show is, allowing the listeners to, come away with a few things that they can bring back to either their personal life or to their business life. And, one of the things already that you've talked about is kind of turning a passion that somebody has into a career. And, not all of us are lucky enough to be able to do that, but, clearly you have. So that's great.
Yeah, I feel very lucky that I've been able to ride this, so-called digital marketing wave for however long it's been.
Right. So you were with the Bobcats for about 4 years, and then you left there to go to a company called Pentair, which, I'd love for you to tell us just a little bit about and kind of the role that you had. But my first question is why? Why did you leave? You had this passion, sports, and now you leave to Pentair. Tell me.
So this is the key, right? I think what a lot of people in sports don't realize, it's a grind, right? When you first enter into sports, the pay sucks, the hours suck. You have to really grind for a long amount of years in order to get anything out of it. And so at the time, I had my first kid, and my second kid came along a lot quicker than I thought. And I think I was just I was ready to kind of to break out. And it hit a kind of a stagnant growth within sports, and knew that I wanted to do something bigger and better. And was offered an opportunity to go join the corporate ranks. And, to be honest with you, it was not fun. I was selling fish pumps to aquaculture farmers, and I had no idea what that even was. It was an interesting decision. I did it for my family, but I also am so thankful that I went that route, because I went from being kind of a content creator on the sports side that was fun. I was around the team every day, to basically getting my teeth kicked in for the first 3 or 4 months, because I'm like, hey, I want to post something on social. And they're like, okay, well, how much money is that going to bring in? Right. Or, why, explain to me what the ROI on that is. And I had this like really creative digital marketing mind with not a revenue backing. And so I spent the first 2 years there, had great leaders at Pentair, and really allowed me to take my hardworking, sports knowledge and really like that athlete mentality into a corporate setting, where a lot of times people in corporate are just, hey, I'm here, I'm doing my time, and I'm gonna go home and enjoy it. And I kind of took the hardworking mentality in a progressive, digital marketing fashion, where we grew our social media channels. We went 20% year-over-year growth on our e-commerce site. Did a whole bunch of like new digital marketing facets. Introduced A/B testing. It was a really exciting time, I think, in my career, but also really humbling in a way, right? Because I went from like working at a stadium every day to working at a manufacturing plant. And people are like, what do you do with aquaculture? What is that, right? And so to give some background on Pentair was a global pure play water company. So they're mostly known for their pool equipment. They decided, hey, if we create pool equipment for pools, we can take it in this new industry of aquaculture, which is like, commercial fish farming. And so they spun up and bought a bunch of companies to create an aquaculture business. And we were a small startup with them, backed by a giant, at the time, Fortune 500 company. So we had a lot of opportunity and a lot of the cash flow to do really cool and exciting things. And so I was able to make a lot of noise in the digital marketing space, because I was able to use a lot of, like techniques to get seen. And, we were a $300 million business, and we were doing more in the digital marketing space than our billion-dollar, other counterparts. And so my fast track to Pentair was pretty awesome, as far as, the quick corporate growth that I was able to establish, right? We brought in a CMO about 2 years in, and I was just a low level, like, digital marketing manager. And he brought me under his wing, saying, I want you to help create, our digital transformation. And what does that look like? And so I was able to build a lot of, digital presentations, educate a lot of executives on what digital marketing is, why you need to invest in it. Why, if you think that color is green and you're the CMO, it's got to be green, but I think it needs to be red because the data is telling me it's red. And so like a lot of that really cool things of being able to kind of do that and understand, hey, if you want any money or capital, you got to have a really good business case for it. And that didn't happen in the sports world. And so I was able to really grow quickly, and also, kind of shape who I am today, because I, basically got yelled at a whole bunch of times, like, I need revenue numbers here. What's the ROI here? What's the return on ad spend? How are you going to do it? And I'm thankful for that where it got me.
Yeah, and so that's something that is interesting to me that I want to probe a little bit. So when I think of sports marketing, it's a little probably dated, but it's more to what it was when you got started in it. That it was more around getting stuff out and less about the measurement of success, and even having defined what success is. And we're going to talk a bit about what you're doing at Tepper, but has that changed for you over time? I mean, from when you started in sports marketing, are there much clearer and defined KPIs and metrics in the sports marketing digital world than there were when you got started?
100%, right? And so I think that's the part where I never thought, honestly, when I left sports, I never thought I'd go back into sports. I never thought there'd be a role, once I left Pentair, I never thought there'd be a role where I'd be able to blend, kind of, and the word performance marketing has kind of sprung up as the new umbrella under digital marketing, or whatever you want to call it, right? I think I never envisioned myself going back to sports, because there was always, I either got to come up with funny memes on social media to be in the digital world, right? Or that. And so now I've kind of be able to blend, hey, look, we can run campaigns to acquire new leads and give them to sales to sell new PSLs, right? And so now my current role in Tepper Sports Entertainment is more of a revenue driving performance role, right? Where everything we do is backed by data. Everything we do is trying to drive more revenue for the company. Yes, we have social teams that are super creative and they keep our fans engaged, but we're taking that data and essentially either selling it or using it for our advantage to get new sales, sell more tickets, increase our partnership revenue. And that's the part where I think not many sports teams have really starting to figure out to unlock, like, honestly, the power of what our data is for a sports team, because we have so much information on our customers,
Yeah. So it's like retailer. I've spent most of my career in the retail business, and you kind of hit one of the 4-letter words, data. And you mentioned selling data. I made a note. We're going to come back and talk about that in a minute. So you left Pentair, you go off and you spend a couple of years, still in the corporate side at Ingersoll Rand. I guess, what did you do at IR?
Yeah, so English Run was a fun time. So I wanted to basically, Pentair took me. I was down in Florida, back down in the Raleigh, Cary area, and I wanted to find a way to get back to Charlotte. Charlotte was my home. English Run was at the time a really big company that they owned Train air conditioning units, commercial and residential, Thermo King, and a whole bunch of other industrial lines with compressors and stuff like that, and Club Car at the time too. And so based off the kind of success I had at Pentair, I joined a newly founded strategic marketing team, which was kind of like the high growth, enterprise corporate level team that was basically a consultant for the rest of all the SBUs. And Ingersoll Rand at the time had about 300 or 400 marketers, all in the company. And so we kind of helped shape and drive that. And I think at that time, the word center of excellence started to come about. It was kind of an engineering term that kind of translated into marketing. So I was the digital marketing and demand generation center of excellence leader. So I partnered with a lot of the marketing teams to help them, optimize their campaigns, help them understand things, connect them with each other, and just, use our company and our voice to cross share information and to connect people as well in order to kind of drive that. But a year into the Ingersoll Rand, right, as with a lot of corporate companies, there's spinoff, there's mergers and acquisitions and all that stuff. The company had an interesting spinoff / acquisition where Garner Denver acquired Ingersoll Rand assets, and then we launched a pure play climate company in Train Technologies. It was very cool to be on the ground floor, pitching, a bunch of C-suite executives that make way more money than a lot of these athletes do. As far as like, hey, this is the company, here's the brand we want to launch, a new brand out of nowhere, right? Which doesn't happen often. We'd done that, but also then spinning off the Ingersoll Rand business. And so it was a lot of work in a 12-month span. And yeah, then after that, the Carolina Panthers came calling with this director of digital marketing. And it was crazy because I was a Panthers PSL owner, a Panthers fan ever since I moved to Charlotte in 2005. And like I said, I never thought I'd get back into sports, but man, here we were. The Panthers had an opportunity for me. It was just like the Bobcats, 15 years ago, like the stars kind of aligned. And I just feel lucky that I'm able to do that. Unfortunately, I've turned my son into a crazy spoiled Panthers kid because he wears Panthers gear every day at school. He's got every shirt, jersey he wants, and it's just it's funny to see that whole kind of him and the rest of my other 3 girls kind of really adopt all things Panthers and now Charlotte FC as well.
Well, that's great. I have a friend who's a really big Panthers fan, so he's going to really like the fact that we did this show. I think the other thing, we talked about, takeaways. You got a job in your passion, but you also, we're not afraid to make a leap into a different vertical and away from that passion. And all too often, we kind of start in a particular vertical of work, and then either the work community doesn't allow us to stray from our lane. In your case, you were lucky, and sometimes we don't want to stray from our lane. So, that's another good takeaway for people, that, you can sometimes get out of your comfort zone, or something that you think is your passion, to try something else, because, it gives you an opportunity to see a different perspective. So that's great that you've been able to do that. Do you have a direct-to-consumer business? I enjoy connecting with guests on this podcast because it reminds me what I love to do: strategic and tactical consulting for businesses like yours. If you'd like to speak with me about your business and see how you can add a fresh set of eyes to your team, contact me at mark@detailsinteractive.com. Now, let's get back to the marketing playbook. Let's go now to Tepper Sports. What is Tepper Sports, and who is this Mr. Tepper?
Yeah, so David Tepper is the owner of the Carolina Panthers, Charlotte FC, and Bank of America Stadium. So Tepper Sports Entertainment is kind of the holding company for the Carolina Panthers, Charlotte FC, and Bank of America Stadium. Essentially, I was hired by the Carolina Panthers at the time. Tepper then bought an MLS franchise and Tepper Sports Entertainment kind of became a thing. We probably need a better job on our branding efforts there. But the Carolina Panthers brand is so strong. The Charlotte FC brand is so strong. And within Charlotte, the Bank of America Stadium brand is so strong. So it doesn't really make sense to have an umbrella company over that. But yes, there are, to give some guidance, there are Tepper Sports Entertainment employees, there are Carolina Panthers employees, there are Charlotte FC employees. And so it all depends where you fall within the organization, within the digital marketing realm, right? Because we are kind of a performance marketing revenue generating department. We kind of oversee all of that for all of our properties to kind of streamline and essentially build the somewhat center of excellence within Tepper Sports Entertainment. This is how we're going to do, digital marketing campaigns and activations and stuff like that.
So is it, you talk about performance marketing. So is the goal of the work that you are doing is to generate revenue for the business? So explain what those revenues are that you're trying to drive.
Yeah, so anything from single game ticket sales to new PSLs for both Panthers and Charlotte FC. If we have a stadium has an event or a concert coming in town, selling concert tickets. So a lot of it is like running those campaigns in order to drive any type of sales as well. And then another way that sports teams make money is through partnerships, right? So it's also helping the partnership team help them ideate on certain campaigns or promotions to work with partners to help make sure they get the most out of their partnership, right? So a lot of times big brands partner with sports teams to get their name out there. But in today's world, right, CMOs are getting smarter. Like, okay, I know that I spend this, I should expect an X in return. And so like no longer are the days of just slapping a logo on our big screen and calling it a day. Like we got to do a lot more for our partners in order to keep them around it and keep them happy.
As far as product sales, are you selling products on your sites, or does that all get powered by like a Fanatics or something?
Yeah, it's all powered by Fanatics. They own a lot of NFL teams. They own NFL Shop as well. So we're in daily talks with Fanatics on how things are going. But the one thing Fanatics does is they kind of help teams that, historically aren't good at doing the digital marketing stuff, right? So Fanatics comes and say, hey, I'll handle your entire e-commerce shop for you, right? And so yeah, the day-to-day like merchandise sales and stuff like that is all handled by Fanatics.
Right. And so the data that you're capturing, whatever it is, how are you using that data to then, kind of flywheel into generating other revenue and additional fan engagement?
Yeah, so we have a lot of ticket data, right? So anyone that comes to a game or a concert, we know who you are, right? And so we're able to do that, load it into Facebook, build out, lookalike audiences and different type of audiences as well. But the one really cool thing about the NFL too is if you ever play Madden or if you ever engage with any type of NFL property and you're within our HMA, we have the ability to market to you, right? So we're able to build out all these different profiles of who our potential customer or fan might be, and then build out different audiences within Facebook and other advertising platforms in order to reach certain audiences that want to do. And that type of marketing hasn't really been done too much in the NFL in the last 2 years. We're just now standing up like performance marketing processes and stuff like that. But because for the longest time the NFL kind of sold itself, right? They didn't have to market. Teams sold out every game, and they have the stadium's full and people love them. So whenever that's the biggest thing is why I think the NFL is a little bit behind in the corporate world, and I know we'll probably get to that, but it's such a product that sold itself. It didn't really have to be marketed. Why grow marketing teams in the past if you're going to sell out every game? There's no reason to market. You can take care of your current customers and that's it. So it's an interesting dynamic in the NFL, but I think we're primed for growth and excited for this new world of that.
So, one of the biggest assets that you have besides the brand name of your businesses are the athletes, right? And what is that? Where does that line get drawn between the fact that they're under contract as players and them being a part of the marketing machine of your brands? How do you get access to them? How does that work?
Yeah, it varies, right? I think it all depends on at the end of the day, we want to grow the Panthers brand and the players are part of the Panthers brand, but they also have their own brands. How are we able to utilize them? But if there's anything we really need to sell or do for the community or whatnot, we have access to the players. And that's a really, really cool thing is, yes, we might not get Christian McCaffrey every time to promote something, but there's so many other players that do things like that. But if we do have a major campaign and we need the help, we can always go to, a bigger level star. And that's the cool thing about working in a sports team is you can utilize them to grow the Panthers brand and also grow their individual brand as well.
Right. Yeah, that would seem to make sense. You mentioned before, about taking the data, using it in Facebook, being relevant. There's so much that's changed over the last, 6 to 12 months within Facebook and Instagram and other digital properties because of changes in iOS and all. How has that changed the way you're thinking about your spend and your performance?
We're still using Facebook pretty heavily for a lot of our spend, but we're not kind of putting all of our eggs in one basket, right? We still want to make sure we have a good marketing mix. And we are, the one really cool thing about the NFL is we are able to stay on top of whatever, iOS or cookieless future that might be happening. But we're just trying to, test and learn every day. And that's all we can do is continue to work with what is in front of us today. And then any changes that happen, we're going to test and learn and optimize and go from there. And so, I think there's going to be a whole bunch of changes coming down in the future, but the one thing we control is what we're doing today. And, whatever happens tomorrow, we will change and adapt and, test and learn and optimize everything we're doing. And so, we really can't control, what Apple or Facebook decide to do with whatever they allow us to do. But the one thing we can do is test and learn as much as possible.
And when you think about, all the things that you're doing, I touched a little bit on metrics before. You talked about performance. If you had to identify for us, just a handful, a couple of the metrics that, each morning you come in and, to try and give yourself some perspective of how you're doing, what do you look at?
So yeah, we look at a lot of, I wouldn't say a lot of things, but the high level things we want to do is how does it line up to revenue? What are our revenue goals, right? How do we support sales? Let's say they're on pace to get X number of dollars, $1 million in sales. Where are we pacing with that? And then how do we use our marketing campaigns and levers to help assist with that, right? And so everything from return on ad spend, we track cost per lead every single day. And then we're also trying to understand what's our engagement like, either on social or outside of social on a website and app, right? How many users can we funnel in there? I think there's a lot of things that go in each kind of vertical, whether it be performance marketing. We call all of our website and app digital experiences, right? And we also have like a marketing automation arm. So like, what's our open rate? How many people are engaged with our emails? How are we growing our subscriber list? And so I think we do a lot of daily metrics, but also understanding the history and the insights of how campaigns are running.
Tell us a little bit about the way you interact with the other teams. They presumably have, marketing people, digital marketing people like you. Are you able to take advantage of, learning across the different teams?
This is the one thing that I love the most about the NFL and all sports franchises, right? 9 times out of 10, I can call or email up another team and say, hey, how'd you do that campaign? And the one really cool thing that they'll do is say, yeah, let's set up a call, talk about it. Here's our marketing plan. Here's how we did it. Here's how it performed. Here's what we learned. Something that's really cool that you don't see anywhere else in any corporate entity. And it gives me so much passion, and I love interacting and connecting with other people just to talk shop, because we all have the same issues. We all have the same problems. And so at the end of the day, we're all just trying to grow the NFL pie or the NBA pie or just the sports pie. And it's so exciting to be able to talk to other teams and just to learn what they're doing and how we're doing. That's the one part that I love about working in sports is people are so open. And, we can be competitors on the field or the court, but on the business side, everybody's open and, usually very friendly. And it's just great to hear that, because we're all have the same issues. We all have the same things we're working on. And that's what I love about working in sports right now.
You'll appreciate this. We're down to the 2-minute drill. It's the end of the show. You're the first guy that was relevant that it was a 2-minute drill. I'll ask you 7 questions, just 1 or 2 word answers, and we'll hear what you have to say. How's that?
That works.
Okay. Number 1, a brand that you admire or that inspires you.
I think that's got to be Nike.
Okay. The favorite app on your phone.
ESPN or Instagram.
Last website other than Amazon that you shopped from.
StockX, buying shoes.
So is that for the 6'9" guys?
It is for the people that like shoes that miss when they get released. I think that the Jordan 1 retro Jordan 1s are the new Cole Haans of the sports business world. And so any way you can get away with wearing Jordans to work, I think is awesome.
Okay. Something that you're good at, that you're not good at, but wish that you were.
I want to learn more about the crypto/NFT world. I've dabbled a little bit, but I think there's a lot more to learn, and excited about where that future is going.
Yeah, it's interesting. I should have asked about NFTs and all. I mentioned I'm a Giants fan, and I'm going to have a guest from the Giants coming up in the next month or so. And they just did a launch yesterday of NFTs, and it had a pretty good result, I believe.
Yeah, we've launched a few on the Panthers and on the NFL side too, and we sold them for $10 a pop, and they were selling for $100 to $500 a piece after the fact. It's mind blowing to me, and I want to learn more about it. So
Yeah, me too.
cool. Yeah, right.
Charitable organization that you're passionate about.
Yeah, one within Charlotte, it's called Sports Business Camps. I don't know if I can give you a quick. They're a nonprofit that supports business education for women and diverse students. So they kind of give opportunities and insights of what happens in the sports world, not on the field. So I'm passionate about that.
If you had one superpower, what would it be?
I feel like everyone has this answer: the ability to fly or travel instantly, right?
Okay. Other than family, what's your most prized possession?
Other than family, I don't know if some people consider dogs family, but I have a Great Dane who's my right hand person. She's awesome. She loves me, and I'm clearly her person. And I'm 6'9" and have a giant dog. It kind of fits me perfectly.
I was going to say, of course, you have a Great Dane.
Yeah.
And you've got such an interesting experience. Where can people reach out to you on social media, Sean?
I think the best way is LinkedIn. I love talking to students and up and coming, young professionals. I'm very passionate about helping educate people that there is another side of sports. There's another side than just posting on social media, right? I think in today's world, in the digital world, right? Like when we were growing up, it's like, oh, you know how to work Microsoft Office and Excel? You're a computer person. And in today's world, it's like, yes, everybody has ran a social media account or done something on social. So like, let's all not try to be social media managers anymore. Let's try to find different ways to drive revenue or, impact your business or your sports team outside of social. So that's part that I'm pretty passionate about.
All right. Thanks for spending the time with me today, Sean. A really good story. Continued success to you and to the teams that you're responsible for. Best of luck.
Yeah. Thanks, Mark. Appreciate everything.
That's it. Today's game ball goes to Sean Phaler for coming on the Marketing Playbook. To me, today's 3 game-winning marketing plays were as follows. Number 1, Sean spoke about his rise in the sports marketing world. He's been able to do what so many of us wish that we could do, turn a passion or a hobby into a career. Look for ways to take your interests and develop them into something that you can make money from. Do not be afraid to take that leap. Number 2, as we develop a career within a certain business vertical, we sometimes get identified with that vertical. I've spent most of my career in the apparel space, and oftentimes people in the beauty space, as an example, could not see me involved with them. To me, that's narrow thinking. So much of what we do in digital marketing is transferable from one vertical to another. Look for opportunities to move outside of an area that you know and bring those ideas to another one. Number 3, take a survey periodically of the new ideas that you're bringing into your job. If you've not tried new things or uncovered new tactics, you're not trying hard enough. Sports marketing, as an example, for the longest time was about branding. Now, as you heard from Sean, the metrics and performance really drive what they're doing. Thank you, Playbook marketers, for listening to another episode. If you want to check out more pages of the Marketing Playbook, make sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast spot and leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. You can follow us on Twitter at DetailsInteract and learn more at detailsinteractive.com. Until next time, the devil is in the details.